I find that I'm much less stressed now when I trust that what is supposed to be done will get done. And I'm a firm believer in being proactive rather than reactive. I think that people will exceed expectations if you allow them to. And trust is probably the number one difference maker in that.
Welcome back to the Change Starts Here podcast, where we dive deep into the stories of incredible leaders who are shaping the future of education. I'm your host, Dustin Odham, and today's guest is someone who truly embodies what it means to be a transformational leader. Thom Cochran, the superintendent of Johnson County Schools, has spent over 26 years dedicated to serving his community. He served as a special education teacher, a coach, a principal, a director, and now he's leading the entire district with vision and heart. Under his leadership, Johnson County Schools have implemented groundbreaking initiatives from student leadership programs to building a strong principal pipeline and fostering a culture of trust. What I love most about Thom is it's quickly apparent that he's not just leading schools. He believes he's shaping lives. Today, we'll explore how Thom is empowering students, growing future school leaders, and why trust and relationships are at the center of everything he does. If you're passionate about building strong schools and even stronger communities, this is a conversation you won't want to miss. Let's jump in. So Thom, thank you so much for making time to be here with us today. We're excited to talk to you. I know we've been trying to figure out a way to work into your schedule. And so thank you so much for making time to be here with us today.
I appreciate, Dustin, the opportunity to be here to talk with you today for sure.
Yes, sir. So as I understand it, let me know if I get any of your bio background wrong as I throw it out there, but you've dedicated, I guess over 26 years to Johnson County Schools. Is that right?
Yes, sir. My entire life. Yeah, my entire educational career has been here.
Yes, sir. So I think you started off in special education as a special ed teacher, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
now you're serving as a superintendent. And so my broad question, just to get us started and to get us in a flow, is what inspired you to pursue a career in education, and what continues to drive you today?
Well, that's a great question. So honestly, I was born in education. My father was an agriculture teacher, and my mother was worked with preschool and Head Start. And so from the time I was born, I've been in schools, and specifically in Johnson County Schools. Both of those, both my mother and my father are taught in Johnson County Schools and worked in Johnson County Schools. And so I really grew up watching them serve their students first, but then families and our entire community. I remember my dad being an agriculture teacher, being called out. This is before where you're looking at late 70s, early 80s. There wasn't any veterinarians around in our community. And so I remember him doing farm calls as an ag teacher. And I was thinking about at that point, wow, what serving he is doing. And it's really probably before I knew what much about service, but I thought that has to make people feel good that he is out willing to come out and help them. And so that kind of ignited my fire. Then as I moved on into high school, I had the opportunity to serve as a student leader in one of our moderate and severe classrooms as a senior leader, and being able to be around that classroom and those students whom I was, just a co-student with, it really opened my eyes to differences in the lives of people that were so close together. And so from that point on, I really thought that my calling, my why was to help students and help our schools. And so it's just kind of always been there. And to go a little farther back, even before my parents, my grandmother was both my grandmothers were cooks. And so I saw what they did day in, day out. It was much more than serving meals. It was taking care of kids. And I joke that that's why I've been chubby my whole life, because I had such great background in school chefs. But the service is really what that's about. So
That's awesome. And so to take that, a step further, so you've been surrounded by, service-minded folks your whole life, and so that's what inspires you. But, in your district, I believe I'll get this right. You've been a teacher, a coach, a principal, a director, and now a superintendent, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So
Okay. So
jokingly, I say that I've had so many jobs in here, and they couldn't find anything I could do very well, so they made me the boss. But the reality is, I've just really enjoyed serving and helping and working with our youth and our entire community from the time that I was able to and really to understand what it was about.
Well, so how does having all the different roles that you have shape your leadership? Like, how does it help you be a more effective leader, knowing that you've had so many different roles?
I think that it's really easy for people to see things from their lens, and it's hard a lot of times to see solutions or problems or what people are going through from outside of your lens. But I think one advantage or blessing that I've had by serving so many different roles is I've been able to take myself out of my current view and put myself into the shoes of other people, whether it be a parent from the coaching perspective, a custodian whom I work side by side with during summers, and all year round, helping clean, helping cooks prepare meals. While I didn't see it while it was happening, that gave me a broader view, and I think enabled me to really look beyond myself when making decisions or trying to figure out how to solve problems, being able to look through the eyes of different people from their roles.
Yeah, well, a consistent theme, and again, when we get internally, folks suggest great guests to come on. And one of the things that was coming through in spades when describing you is this passion for student leadership, right? So, passion for not just putting yourself in the other people's role that work in the district, but also thinking about the students. And so, uh, as you've been described to me, you've been a strong advocate for student leadership. Even I think establishing a student board member, right, for your representatives, or you have a student board member representatives, essentially, right?
We do, yeah. We created that about 4 years ago. Yes. To that point, basically, the basic foundation of education is, or public education, we're here to serve kids. If not for kids, none of us would have jobs, and none of us would be able to fulfill our calling or our career. And so, every decision we make, we have to ask ourselves the question: does this benefit kids? And if yes, then we explore it farther. If not, then we don't make that decision. I feel like the times I've messed up a whole lot in my life, Dustin, and I've made a whole lot of decisions
Me
I
too.
scratch my
Me
head
too.
about. But most of the time, when dealing with P-12 public education and kids, if the answer is student based, if it's based on what is best for each and every student, then it's normally the right decision. And even if it's not, I can go ahead and we can shake it off and say, well, we tried and we made the best decision for those kids that time, or what we felt like was the best decision. We mess up. I feel like we mess up when we lose focus of that student and being centered around what's best for the student. Adult decisions are decisions based on adult needs, adult wants, are for us in public education. That seems to me like when we err the most. And don't get me wrong, I believe that we must take care of our adults in order, in my position, particularly any leadership position, we must take care of the adults under our charge, under our care, with whom we work, so that they can then make the best decisions for our kids. But I think every decision has to be based on that student, each and every student, and what's best for them.
Yeah. So as you think about the student empowerment, I mean, again, 4 years ago, you've spent your whole career empowering students. I can tell, and as again, how you've been described to me. But 4 years ago, you went as far to create student representatives to your board. And when you think about either that initiative or other initiatives that you have in your district that are really empowering student voice, what impact have you seen from those initiatives?
I have seen students feel much more comfortable in coming to me or to their principal with ideas or challenges that they have in school. And it's funny that you mentioned that. It was just last month at our board meeting, I had our two student board members we were having a conversation, and we're talking now about creating a superintendent student advisory council comprised of different leaders, student leaders at our high school. And I made the statement that we've made a big step in getting those two in those positions as student board members. Now the next step is we have to really empower them to be more to step up a little bit more and to be the leaders that we need. And that now that's not their fault. That's our fault. And so that's an area that I see for growth for us. We have made a big first step in getting them getting those positions. Now we have to help them figure out what they do with those positions. And so I feel like the next step is for those two, whoever fills those roles, be kind of the leader of the Superintendent Student Advisory Council, take the lead in that cohort, and develop even more student voice from the student stakeholder groups at our high school.
Yeah, I think to go a little bit further with that, I think about, as you can see behind me, I've got 3 kids under the age of 11. My 11-year-old was chosen to be on a district-wide leadership group. And I mean, nobody in our district knows my connection to leadership development along these lines. And so I got to see him go to his advisory board meetings. I was there, and I just wanted to learn as much as possible. And so I asked him at the end of his year-long experience, what did he think of it? And he said, he liked the opportunity, but he felt like there wasn't a way to really give deep feedback. It felt like he was like checking off the box.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, again, he knew the heart behind it. He felt it. He didn't feel like anything was being done poorly to him, but he didn't really have the voice. So what advice do you have, folks, either principals or superintendents who are trying to go down this path of empowering student voice, making sure that we're not just checking off a box of this sounds good, let's just create a role. Let's actually get voice to create a better district or a better school for us?
Well, I think, and I'm speaking based on experience here because I just told you where we started and where we went ahead. I think
Exactly.
being genuine, being authentic with why you want students here. And so, what better way to make a school get better than to listen to our customers, our students? I mean, that is the only true way to ensure that our schools improve and grow and keep getting better. And we have more students want to come back every day, every year, and even new students come. We have to listen to them, not to check that box, as you said, or like I feel like we have probably done a little bit in the past, and not just to say that we have that, but genuinely to listen to their concerns and to their proposals and what they think would make our schools and our district better. And so the authenticity, truly listening to get better and to involve them, as anybody, a kid especially, really in tune with your purpose. And they know that if it's genuine, they know why you're doing what you're doing. You may fool them a little bit, but they really have to know that you care and that you want to listen to them and you want to get better. And I think them being able to come to you without any reservations of getting in any sort of consequence or any trouble, if they're honest with you, then I think that truly opens up the communication channels and a path to get better.
Yeah, that's a key leadership ability, right? That's not something that everybody has. And so when I think about when your name got brought up as a potential guest for us, the 2 things that stuck out to me most were your dedication for student voice and really trying to be authentic in building that leadership efficacy in your kids. And then the other part that I've cared deeply about is how do you develop leaders in your school district? And so as I understand it, as you think about, training the right kind of people to see the best in students, you've done something creative with your principal cohort leadership development program. I'm just curious, can you just share how you've approached leadership development in your district?
Sure, sure. Well, and so that starts first of all with our students, and things like each one of our schools. We're district wide, leader in me, and each one of our schools have student leadership teams, and so they start from the elementary. Whether it's a job at school or whether it is on the leadership or the lighthouse team, and so that is instilled in our students at a young age. And I say that I'll jump forward a little bit because we're in a small rural community, and most of our staff, our teachers, our leaders come from right here. And so we kind of just figured out, if we want the best, we have to start training them at a very early age. And so whether it's through these lighthouse teams, jobs, or once they get to the high school, uh, finding the best of the best who fit the role of an educator and getting them interested and hopefully involved in our teaching career pathway, we start them out at that young age. And then as they graduate, there are two universities locally that are have education majors, and so we try our best to keep the relationship with both those universities so that we can have those teachers in their undergrad classes come back and observe and complete any class requirements within our schools. We also try our best to get the very best of those to come back and do student teaching for us. And so we grab all we can and develop relationships with them, and we start modeling, mentoring, teaching the Johnson County way from a very early age, and then that transfers right into the classroom. And now I'll get to where you're at, the question you asked me. So our pipeline, we offer kind of multiple paths. So for our teachers who are interested in going into administration or want to grow, whether it's teacher leadership, school administration, district level administration, we have a development program, and it truly is. There's not a whole lot of bean counting or nuts and bolts of how to operate a school. We have a little bit of that, but the great vast majority of our leadership development is centered around servant leadership. And so we pull in a lot of FranklinCovey. We pull in Maxwell. We pull in John Gordon. And we truly just have discussions. It's not a sit and get. It's interactive, and discussions and activities that help these leaders, no matter what level they're at, grow and develop. I'm still part of it, and I love it too, and I grow every single day. I kind of feel like when you stop growing, you quit living, right?
Yes.
And so
Yes.
we try to improve every day, and I feel like key to that is modeling. My dad, I love him, and miss him dearly every day. But he used to say to me, "Do as I say, not as I do," and that may be the only thing that he's ever said in his life that I disagreed with. So I try to act as I want others to act. I try to behave in a way that I want others to behave, and all that goes back to service, making the lives of others around us a little bit better every day, and hopefully all that transfers to the people within our district and within our community, um, to help them want to be a little bit better. So I'm sorry about that. I got off there a little bit, but
Oh, you're good.
so that's our leadership development from the teacher point of view. For our existing administrators, including myself, especially myself, we try to grow regularly as well. And so we have principal administrative meetings once a month. And during those meetings, we always have a section uh, devoted to our development, whether it is a leader in me activity or whether it is something about around trust and inspire. Matter of fact, last summer I had Muriel Summers in, as we all know in the leader in me world, as the greatest leader in me person alive.
Yep.
And she did 2 days with us all around trust and inspire, and it was really just thought provoking, and it helped all of us grow And so to extend on that, this Christmas, before Christmas, I did an Advent calendar with our Advent calendar with Trust and Inspire. I had 17 days until my December administrative meeting at Christmas break. And so we took those 17 days and we made a calendar and gave each school and district administrator an envelope that they opened daily. And in each one of those different 17 envelopes, there was a different principle from Trust and Inspire. And so I had them just read a 5-second snippet and then ask the question, how do you apply that to your job and to your life? And so they did that for 17 days, and it really amazed me at the amount of conversation that those things generated. And so then at our December administrative meeting, we had the finale, and we broke into a Kagan strategy and talked about the last principle, and then we expanded that to talk about all the principles within those small groups. And so the finale then is I gave everyone a copy of Trust and Inspire. And so they had already kind of bought into the principles within Trust and Inspire. And then they took that book as a Christmas present and hopefully read it over Christmas. We've been out those for the 5 weeks for snow after Christmas. So we've just been back in for 2 weeks, not had an administrative meeting since then, but we're going to follow that up with weekly or with monthly discussions of the principles inside of that book. So it's really a pretty powerful development tool that we used to help all of our staff. And so I said that to say this, we have regular growth opportunities for our existing assistant principals, and district administrators so that they can continue to grow and move into different positions of leadership and be effective as well.
Well, you started this off by talking about how your county, you try to keep a lot of folks close. You hire a lot of folks that are in the county, right? But I was just at a superintendent's conference where a gentleman who had about 30,000 students in his district in Florida, I asked him a similar question, just how are you building your leadership pipeline? How do you find your teachers? And it's a paradigm that you just shared and that he shared that I think is one that everyone needs to think about is he thinks of his pipeline as starting with his students. He takes it that seriously of building the leadership there, building the connective tissue and the passion and the skills. And so that's really refreshing to hear because it's something I don't think is permeated everywhere yet. It's like we have a teacher shortage. Let's just solve it, looking outward. It's looking in that's really powerful. So I appreciate that. The second thing you talked about is doubling down on this trust belief. And as well as anybody, building trust takes time and intentionality. And so I'm curious, can you just share a moment where if you think about it was trust that made the difference in a tough leadership decision for you, whether it's a superintendent or as a coach or as a principal or a teacher, just where trust was the key difference for you?
Well, and I'm glad you asked that because that's truly my mindset, my mind shift from trying to do everything myself, or as I've been deemed in my past life as a micromanager, just about has taken me out over the years. And so the shift to trust truly has enabled me to remain a leader for much longer. And I didn't see that when I didn't trust. I didn't see that, Dustin. I felt I didn't realize that I was viewed as such a micromanager, and I was. I mean, I probably still am, but I'm a recovering micromanager. And so I was at a conference sometime back a few years ago, and the speaker made a statement that just really resonated with me, and it was talking about trust. And we all know that in order to be able to trust, to get trust, we have to give trust. And so this person was sitting talking, and he said, simply, it's just simple: trust until you can't. And so I thought about that, and I really just shook my head, said, no way, no way. But then the more I dug into it, and the more I thought about it, I just said, why not? This is not working for me because my entire being is is uh, is about me trying to do everything. And one, I can't. Two, if I try to do everything, nobody around me is going to get any better. And three, I'm actually going to lose, people are going to lose faith in me that I have faith in them, because I can't open that door and then say, no, I'm going to do it, because that gives the appearance that I can do a little bit better. And so since then, I have simply said, I'm going to trust until I can't. It was just a mindset shift for me. And have I been burnt? Yeah, a time or two. I have. That's okay. I have much more benefits I have seen, and much more growth from myself and from the people around me by offering that trust up front. It, some people may disagree with that, and for much of my life, I probably did as well. But I have found that my life's much better, and the people's lives around me, including my family, their lives are much better too, because of that change in my mindset.
Mm. So you're saying trust is not just an effective business principle or operational principle or educational principle. It's something that also helps you in your personal life. So it sounds
Oh,
like
absolutely.
it's given you some extended life as a leader, and it's brought some joy to you at home, right?
Yes, and maybe some extended life in general. I find that I'm much less stressed now when I trust that what is supposed to be done will get done. And I'm a firm believer in being proactive rather than reactive. But I think that people will exceed expectations if you allow them to. And trust is probably the number one um, difference maker in that.
I think there's something to it. And so if someone's listening right now and they're thinking, I probably need to spend more time on building trust with people around me, but I have no clue where to start. So whether it's a principal, a district leader, a superintendent, even, well, what advice do you have for leaders who want to strengthen their trust but have no clue where to start?
For me, um, it is, if someone has an idea, I don't add to it and say, hey, that sounds good, but what about this? I listen first, Covey principle, listen with the intent to understand. And then we give leeway and say, let's go with it. Let's see how it goes. And the people will then come back to me and say, oh, this went well, or I wish I'd have done this, or my goodness, this was perfect. And so I found that I often don't have to give that, be in that advisory role. I mean, that's part of my job, but I don't have to be in that advisory role and set those parameters. People will set the parameters themselves and will truly open up to you a whole lot more if you don't try to dictate everything, every little step that they make, whether it's you asking them to do something or if they come to you themselves. And so the simple answer to that is listen, and have faith that people will do what they're supposed to do. And I listen, I'm a firm believer in high expectations. We have to. Those start with yourself. You have to have high expectations on yourself, and you can't expect someone else to do something that you're not willing to do yourself. I also believe that if you set that bar of expectations, most people will go beyond those. So, especially if they trust you and if you trust them.
Yeah, they want to live up to the belief that you've shown in them, right? Versus just the
Yes,
checklist. They'll go past it because they don't want to let you down versus just complete the checklist you gave them, right?
100%. And the other thing I'll add to that is, will people mess up? Heck yeah. I don't figure anybody will mess up any more than what I do, what I have, or what I continue to do. And so another very key component to developing that trust, I think, is grace. I feel like, and I said this just the other day, I've been stuck on grace for a couple of years. Um, and I feel like that when people mess up, um, they are so thankful if their coworker, their supervisor, their spouse, ever who it is, says, you know what, that's okay. Let's figure out how to get through this. And I think that when you do that, that builds even more trust, and that allows people to put themselves out there more. And it may be something minor, it may be something major. I mean, as long as it's not illegal, unethical, then we could figure out a way to get past it and grow and improve. And so grace, I feel like, is probably key in all of that with trust building.
Yeah, I talked to a few folks even last week in a leadership conference about grace upon grace upon grace with folks. I feel like after doing this for several years, but working at FranklinCovey for 13 years, truth that it seems to be consistent is people's inner dialogue is so negative already that when they mess up, even if you give them grace, they're still beating themselves up. And so they're not even back on their feet. And our goal has to be, how do we get people back on their feet to lead boldly and strongly? And if their inner dialogue is beating themselves up, they can't fully get up. And so if you're not giving them grace, it just continues to bury them. And so I think there's real power to grace.
Yeah, you're right. And most people are harder on themselves than any of us could ever be most of the time. You're exactly right. So that encouragement.
The right leaders.
Yeah, well, that's right. And encouragement goes a whole long way in helping people come out of that. So, yeah.
So before we wrap up, I had a couple quick questions. We're not getting to our rapid fire questions yet, but I think someone with your extensive background and all the different roles that you've had, and I'm just going to assume you brought in grants. I'm going to assume you've built infrastructure projects. I'm going to assume you've built leadership, had all these leadership positions. What would you say you're most proud of in your time as a leader in Johnson County?
Oh my goodness. Both.
No pressure.
What I'm most proud of, and this is a work in progress. There's a couple of things. One would be, I'll say this first, seeing the growth in some of our people that have come from maybe a custodian or a family resource center director to a school and district administrator, seeing the growth in them that is beyond imagination. And so watching people succeed is one of the biggest things that I'm most proud of. Watching our students who struggle to get to school, maybe as in kindergarten, couldn't read, graduating either with honors or graduating and not going to college, but being very successful in a trade school. So those things were always so proud of. Now, on the flip side, as far as something you can see, we have a high school that's 56 years old, built for 715 students. We operate a high school and a career and tech center inside of it, and we have nursing classes that are happening in a regular classroom, and so we pulled beds in and knocked out walls, and so we've accommodated. But over the last 5 years, we have worked so hard as a school community to build a new high school, and so we finally have broken ground. We broke ground about a year ago, and we literally, I tell people all the time that our Board of Education is moving mountains for our kids, but we literally are. We've had to move 5 million yards of material, dynamite 2 hillsides off to make room for a new high school.
Wow.
We've got the community is all in, supported us. Extra construction taxes have been added that they've supported. Our state legislators have kicked in and helped us with some gap funding, and so we are getting ready to finish the site development of that project, and we're getting ready to build a brand new high school and career tech center all in one on a new location. So that we hopefully that will be completed in the next 3 years, and I'm pretty proud of that. I'll just be honest with you. Something else I'm really proud of. I'm proud of a whole lot of things. You get me talking about this, but the leadership development of our kids, I'm so proud of as well. With moving from one school, I started Leader in Me school. I was principal of Highland Elementary in 2014 when we started Leader in Me, and full transparency, the superintendent called me and said, "We've got a grant. We've got some program, some leadership program, and you're going to start it." And I, kicking and screaming, I said, "Absolutely not. My people won't do anything. They can't do anything else. Their cups are full." And he said, "I don't care. You're doing it." And I said, "All right." And so we started it, and it was from the first day of the first training of 7 Habits. My mindset completely shifted on that, and I realized how valuable this was. First, I didn't realize how valuable it would be for kids, just for our adults. Myself, the best training I'd ever been through in my entire life. And I thought, gosh, if that's good for me, that good for me, how good is it going to be for our kids? So I didn't mean to keep going.
You have no idea how much I respect you for that, because that's something that I've talked about. As much as I love Leader in Me, I'm in rooms of superintendents often, and I always say, if it is top down and voluntold, I can't promise you it's going to be successful. But if you allow people to have voice and choice, it definitely will. However, you are someone, and my whole theory is my favorite leaders, I think some of the strongest leaders are the ones who will fight kicking and screaming, even if it's great, because they want to protect their people, right? And they want to have voice and choice coming in. So you're someone who had to, basically sign up and has had a complete 180 heart change and seeing the impact. What is it about the Leader in Me process? You said it's not just the kid, it's the adults. What are you seeing in the adults that's giving you this whole new fresh mindset of, we got to do this in a lot more schools. It's not just for this elementary school.
I think it is just the mindset shift, Dustin. Really, these are just good, solid practices that should be common sense that a lot of people don't live by for whatever reason. And I'm going to assume it's because they truly don't know. The number one thing I think is listening. I feel like there's so many problems that would never be created if people just truly listened before they reacted or responded. And so, and that's, look, I'm not talking about just a workplace, man. I'm talking about at the house too. We're not only with your spouse, but also with your kids. And I think modeling that listening allows your kids to see, he's not just yelling. I'm truly getting input here, and I get to share what I feel, even if they're not always right. None of us are always right, but listening to try to understand where they're coming from. And I'll circle all the way back to the beginning. We talked about the lens from which we view things, and most people cannot see behind their own 4 walls, their own sight. But I think the Leader in Me enables you to see things from different perspectives, this different point of view, different lenses, different sets of eyes.
I love it. That's refreshing. Before we go, I told you we had rapid fire questions. You and I are both, and this is a compliment coming from me, even though you don't know me well enough to know that, we are both long-winded. I joke that somebody will ask me somebody will say what time it is, and I will tell you how the watch is built. And so with that, you and I will try to get through this together, but I just want you to know, I actually appreciate the depth behind every answer. And so go wherever you want to go. But my first question is, what habit or discipline do you utilize on a daily or weekly basis to help you be the best version of yourself?
Think win-win.
Why is that? Because I will say this, why is that? I'm taking away from our own rapid fireness, because there's a lot of folks who are just being introduced to the topic and they think, oh, well, that just sounds like every kid gets a trophy. I don't know if I can sign up for that. You don't strike me as such. So what does win-win mean to you?
I'm definitely not everybody gets a trophy. I feel like people need to earn their keep, earn their things, earn their accolades, because I think in every situation there is a positive outcome for everybody involved. And I don't think there always had to be. Now, in sports or in competition, there's a winner and there's a loser. But even in losing, don't you learn great little lessons? And so I think win-win. I think if we're truly servants and we're truly put on here to make others' life better, we have to work to find solutions that are beneficial and advantageous to everyone involved.
All right. This is the one that catches everybody off guard, but hopefully I give you enough prep time. We care about walk-up songs here in a baseball community like St. Louis. If you had a walk-up song and again, walk-up songs, as my kids always point out, could change week to week, day to day, depending on your mood or where you're at. So right now, what would your walk-up song be?
Funny as it is, I'm from rural Eastern Kentucky, and we are I live on the Country Music Highway Museum. And so I love all kinds of people. I will say that Chris Stapleton is a Johnson Central graduate, and so I'll give him a shout out.
Is he?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
My wife and my oldest son are diehard fans of Chris Stapleton.
Oh, he's great. He is fantastic. But with that being said, I would have to go with Eminem and Lose Yourself. That would have to be my one.
Thom, I love you
it just
so
pumps
much.
me. It just pumps me up. You can't not be fired up and listen to that song.
I did not have that on my bingo card this morning. It is definitely one of mine. That makes my day. That is absolutely one of my top three. My oldest son, I finally recruited to believing that, but that's great. You made my day. All right, last piece. This is more serious. What is the best piece of leadership advice you've either received recently that it's just on your head, on your mind that you can't get off your mind, right? Or something that you often think when I'm like, hey, there's someone new in education, I want to help them develop. What's the go-to piece of advice that's on your head or heart right now?
I said it earlier. I've been stuck with it, grace. But I'm going to extend that, grace with accountability. I think that we have to be in the mindset of we're all human. We're going to mess up. Let's offer that grace. But with that, let's hold people accountable. Okay, you messed up. How do we fix it? How do you go about fixing that? How you go about growing? How you go about getting better? So that whatever it is happened that caused you to need grace, we're not in that situation again. So grace with accountability. I think that's adult, that's student, that's personal, that's professional.
I love it. Well, this has been so refreshing. Again, I did not see Lose Yourself coming out. So for those of you who haven't heard that in a while, go listen to it. If it doesn't pup you up, we need to talk. We've got to have questions. For folks who are listening, one of the things that I look at as my role is just a conduit of finding amazing people doing great work, and hopefully folks can reach out and connect with you. So folks that are listening who are leaders who want to grow and find out more about you and your leadership philosophy or what you all are doing in Johnson County, what are the best ways to connect with you all or reach out to you all?
Probably the best way is through my school email. If it's okay, I'll give that. It's Thom, THOM.Cochran, COCHRAN @johnson.kyschools.us, or call the board office and I'll gladly sit and talk with you at 606-789-2530.
Yes, sir.
I give my cell phone out, and I'm afraid it'd end up on a bathroom wall somewhere.
Yeah, I think I absolutely appreciate your heart, but I think that was wise right there. Thom, this is a huge blessing. I will be in touch on John or anything else that comes across our way. Thanks for making time. I really appreciate it. I know your world is crazy busy. I can only imagine the fact that you've lost, what you said, 3 weeks of school already. We've lost, I think, 1.5, 2 here in St. Louis. So that's going to be fun the rest of the year to catch up. But thank you for making time in the craziness of your life to talk to us.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity, and I've greatly enjoyed today for sure.
Yeah, it was a blessing. Thank you so much. Talk soon.
Yes, sir. All right. Bye-bye.